Tonight on The Local Live, No West Nile here, says Mamaroneck Village. A tri-municipal ceremony remembers September 11th, 18 years later. The Mamaroneck Schools Foundation's Junior Triathlon is in its 14th year. And on tonight's roundtable, we discuss Suicide Prevention Month in Westchester. Good evening, it's Thursday, September 12th. I'm Sibylla Chipaziwa and welcome to The Local Live. The batch of mosquitoes that tested positive for West Nile virus last month was not from Mamaroneck Village, but from one of the unincorporated parts of the town, according to Mayor Tom Murphy. A Westchester County alert from last Friday advised residents to use repellent and to check for standing water.
The county had one instance of a mosquito with West Nile virus, and the test was done on August 13th. They didn't come out with the finding until the other day, Friday, I think the 5th, but it wasn't a cause for alarm. It was not in the village of Mamaroneck. It was in Mamaroneck, but not in the village. It was in the unincorporated section of Mamaroneck. The village this year was very proactive. We treated every catch basin in the village of Mamaroneck with larvicide. And it was a very calm year in the village of Mamaroneck for mosquitoes. We didn't have a lot of complaints because we were proactive. We hired a consultant who is renowned, and he gave us advice about where to put the larvicide, when to do it, what tide to do it on, and it was very scientific. And the village did not have a problem with mosquitoes per se, and we definitely did not have a problem with West Nile virus.
Yesterday, Mamaroneck and Larchmont officials and residents convened at the Girl Scout Rock in Memorial Park to remember the 12 community members who died on September 11th, 18 years ago.
If today you are 18 years old, then for your whole life, our country has been at war. If you were 18 years old in 2001, then today you'd be 36 years old. And our country would have been at war for your whole adult life.
But on this 18th, our spirits will not be silenced. And so we raise a glass to those unfinished lives. Not alone by remembering them with love, but by pledging L'chaim. Let our connection to one another be for kindness. L'chaim. Let our support of the stranger be with open hand and outreaching heart. L'chaim. Let our commitment to justice and freedom be a clarion call. L'chaim. And let our love for country compel us to build bridges of understanding, a love celebrating the dignity of difference, a love upholding the truths that remain self-evident, a love so powerful, so precious, it makes memory live by renewing our hope.
And so I'm proud that this year we have changed the law to require every school in New York to have a moment of silence on 9/11, as we do for other important holidays. Going forward, we are going to require every class on 9/11 to have a moment for the teacher to take the opportunity to explain and discuss, and for the memory of those who were lost to be remembered. So that is one of our challenges. Our next generation must understand what happened on that day.
So for this year to remember that though the people that flew the planes into those buildings wanted to really break our spirit and destroy our lives, we Americans all together, regardless of faith and party and everything else, we came together. We are one. The memory of those that we lost will never be forgotten, and they live on with us.
In our grief, we also remember that there was a time when our country was at peace, and with resolve, tolerance, and understanding, we shall see such a time again.
Total enrollment is up by only 0.29% from last year. That's according to Mamaroneck School Superintendent Dr. Robert Shapps. Schools are not at capacity, he stressed. However, in an email to the 30-member enrollment task force, Shapps noted that there was no room to add extra classrooms at Murray and Mamaroneck Avenue elementary schools.
Certainly, I would say is that our enrollment has been expected. I would say that I know today there was news that there is a building or some form of moratorium on residential housing starts in the village of Mamaroneck. We had a meeting with municipal leaders as part of our town village school meeting several weeks ago, talked about additional 126 housing units that are going online in the village of Mamaroneck. Also, the village of Larchmont is considering developing 20 to 26 apartments, 2 or 3 bedrooms in the downtown area. So as we think about short-term enrollment change, that's something that we'll continue to talk with the municipalities about our concerns relative to elementary space in the village. I also want to say I had earlier today the opportunity to send out an email to the task force. I'm monitoring whether they opened and responded to my email, but I did provide task force members with, I see a member here, that's why I mentioned it. But I did just update, yes, I did update the task force on our enrollment numbers and give them some advance warning since they certainly committed to helping us examine and explore strategies as well. Okay.
Larchmont Mayor Lorraine Walsh announced earlier this week that the village was awarded $10,000 thanks to the Preserve New York grant program. The funds will go towards a cultural resource survey by the Preservation League of New York State in a bid to maintain Larchmont's historic character in the face of development. And State Senator Shelley Mayer and State Assemblyman Steve Otis kicked off the new season of the Larchmont Mamaroneck Local Summit on Tuesday.
It was a fantastic session in Albany. Steve is in the leadership of the Assembly, which means that he has a key role in being involved with the Speaker about what bills come to the floor and what issues are taken up. Again, we could not get any of these things done with the prior majority. And when we got to be the majority, working with the Assembly, which had passed these before, we moved right ahead and did these right at the beginning.
The local communities use real estate taxes to pay for Medicare. This is something that the state could take over and relieve a substantial burden on education.
Why is Albany acting in this way? We're the highest tax state in the country, or just about. We're the highest tax state in the county, and then you're giving a message of anti-business.
Creative people are working in spaces. What is the state doing to encourage that kind of service?
And on tonight's roundtable, Mike Witch will lead a discussion on the recent steps Westchester County has taken to raise suicide prevention awareness.
Good evening and welcome to the Local Live Roundtable. I'm your host, Michael Witch. Earlier this month, George Latimer, our county executive, proclaimed September as Mental Health Awareness Month, Suicide Awareness Month, Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and it's a serious topic, and we thought we should spend some time on it, and we're very happy to have 3 guests here who are associated with that effort. And with us is Michael Orth, who is the Commissioner of Westchester County Department of Community Mental Health. He's been with that department for about 25 years. And he's also the co-chair of the Westchester County Suicide Prevention and Awareness Task Force. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you.
And next to Michael is Hassan Bilal. Hassan is the co-founder of the Mind, Body, and Spirit Community Coalition, a new organization formed to help the county better deal with suicide prevention. And he's got a family connection to suicide, a sad connection, admittedly, but he'll tell you about it as we go on. And finally, Dr. Barbara Bernstein is next to me, and she is a psychologist, and she is the Chief Planning Officer of the Mental Health Association of Westchester. And along with Michael, she's the co-chair of the Westchester County Suicide Prevention and Awareness Task Force. So welcome to all of you, and thank you for spending some time.
Thank you.
And I'd like to remind our audience that this is a live segment on Thursday, the 12th of September. And if you've got a question or a comment, you can call us, you can send an email, you can send a tweet. If you're watching on Facebook, you can communicate with us, and our contact information will be displayed on the screen for the duration of our talk, which will be about 20 minutes with a couple of breaks. So if you're so moved, feel free, and our guests will attempt to answer the question as best they can. Michael, let me start with you. You're the head of this organization, the county. Can you tell us what the mission of the Community Health Department is and how the suicide prevention fits into that?
Sure. First, thank you for having us this evening to talk about this really important topic. Westchester County Department of Community Mental Health is a branch of county government that has responsibility for the mental health system, substance abuse, and developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities. So we work closely looking at county planning, looking at the issues of our residents, and really trying to do education, prevention, treatment, and do a needs assessment for the emotional, behavioral well-being of our county. As a public health issue, suicide clearly is a concern, and part of the role of the county is to really look at making sure that we have education prevention related to suicide, but also provide the treatment resources for those people who may experience stress, who may seek support for their loved ones, that the resources are available in our county. So we work closely with about 50 organizations throughout Westchester, hospitals and clinics, but we also work with school districts and other faith-based organizations, community organizations, to really create awareness and support for suicide prevention.
Is there a local government person or department that you help support, like in Mamaroneck or Larchmont, the town or the villages?
It's a good question. We work closely with all the municipalities to really do educational forums and sessions, which we'll talk about later, and also work with all of our school districts in Westchester County to make sure that we're providing emotional wellness support for students, but also the staff, that they're trained and have the awareness to address emotional wellness issues and suicide prevention.
Barbara, I'd like to ask you about the task force that you are co-chair of. This task force has existed for some time, or is it new?
For several years now.
Okay.
Michael and I are really very privileged to lead this group. Westchester's very fortunate. We have a lot of providers, a lot of services, but one of the things that we recognized was that there was a lot going on in an uncoordinated way. So the task force has brought together a large number of providers as well as individuals in the community to, in a very thoughtful way, address the issue of suicide through trainings of various kinds, awareness events. We respond by helping communities and individuals after there's been a loss to suicide. We're very concerned about issues of safe messaging as well as healing opportunities. And one of the things that's brand new that we're very excited about is that we have an opportunity, having been selected by the state as one of the counties to be a pilot for something that's being called a suicide fatality review team, which is going to give us an opportunity to really delve into understanding the stories of the individuals who've been lost to suicide, so that hopefully we can learn from those stories and prevent other deaths.
If you are reading newspapers these days, and I'm talking to our audience, we've read stories about cab drivers who've committed suicide, and policemen, veterans, kids, especially kids who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. It's the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. At least that's the figure from 2017. And in that year, there were 47,000 deaths.
Correct.
However, there were 1,400,000 attempts. And women were less likely to commit suicide than men. Men were 3 times more likely to commit suicide, according to what I read on the internet. And guns were involved in a little more than half of the attempts.
Exactly. So one of the things that we do know, and you've pointed out some important statistics, I think, one of the things that we do know is actually that women attempt far more than men do, about 3 times as often, although men complete suicide about 3 times as often as women. This is a complex journey. Each story is different. There are different clusters of things that propel people in this direction. One of the things that we are really trying to do is understand those factors that lead up to that, because each time we can identify one of those factors, that's an opportunity to intervene and to try to save a life. We also know that about 125 people are probably significantly impacted every time there's a suicide death. And it also raises risk. And so each time we can intervene and hopefully save a life, we also are preventing other painful experiences and other deaths.
Well, way back in January of this year, the county organized a presentation about alternatives to suicide prevention. And that's where I first heard about the topic and got interested in it. I do have a family member who has sometimes threatened suicide, but Hassan, you actually have a family member who did complete suicide.
Yes, that's true. Unfortunately, last year, December of last year, my son-in-law completed suicide. And obviously it was a very traumatic situation for all of us. And you know, the thing that bothers me the most about his situation is that we did everything that we could possibly do within the system to try to keep him in a healthy state. He was a young man, very popular young man, very well liked in the community, and he was a model patient in the mental health system for many years. In fact, he had been doing so well that he had gotten to a point where he felt that he did not need to take medication, he did not need to continue with his therapy, and as a result of that, he started to go downhill. And it was a period of several months that he experienced this, and we had him hospitalized several times with the hope that the hospital would mandate that he would get back into treatment, but unfortunately that did not work, and he ended up completing suicide.
But the organization that you founded, I'm sure, is inspired in some way by that loss, and I'm sorry for that loss. I want to give you a chance to talk about this Mind, Body, and Spirit Community Coalition, but we're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back after this word, public service announcement from the county about suicide prevention.
Everyone is on the continuum. We all have our good days and our bad days, and sometimes feel down or feel excited or feel a little bit anxious. Mental illness is really when it becomes something that has an impact on your life for more than a couple of weeks or months. When it starts affecting your relationships, your employment, your school, that's when it may be considered a mental illness.
Kids usually act out before they talk it out. All behavior has meaning for children. It's their way of communicating with us. So in younger ones, we'll see them not meeting their developmental milestones on time. Perhaps maybe they're walking, talking, potty training later than their peers. We'll see them having difficulty managing in school, difficulty learning. We might see increased frequency in tantruming behavior. And as they become teens, it's understandably a little trickier, right? Because there's a developmental piece where teenagers are sort of trying to separate from their family, and you may not feel like you know them as well.
I think people in general struggle with talking about their feelings, their emotions, perhaps as a sign of weakness of character. So people are not as comfortable being in touch with their feelings. So one of the things that we promote, especially for parents in dealing with young kids, young children, is to model talking about feelings and emotions and having that conversation with people who they care about or family members.
There's a lot that we can do as the parents and caregivers of children. I always tell parents there are 3 T's. There's talk, teach, and team up. First and foremost, don't be afraid to talk to your kids about mental health. Don't be afraid to talk to them about how they're feeling, to check in with them. to say, hey, I noticed that you used to love baseball and now you quit baseball, and invite them to talk to you or to someone else they trust about it.
We do support that pediatricians or doctors, when you do your physical, ask questions about emotional wellness as well. Asking, have you ever felt depressed over the past year? Do you feel anxious at times? So just to open the conversation so people can talk about how they're feeling and what their emotions are.
And we're back at the round table, and we're talking about Westchester County and Suicide Awareness and Suicide Prevention Month. It's September, and we have as our guest Michael Orth, and we just saw him on the public service announcement, and Hassan Bilal and Barbara, and why I just blanked on Bernstein, I'm sorry. Barbara Bernstein with us, and we're talking about that topic, and it's a serious one. And when just before the break, Hassan, I asked you if you would describe the Mind, Body, and Spirit Community Coalition that you founded.
Yeah, sure, Mike. I didn't found it by myself. There are a number of us who came together, community organizations, to address the health concerns of our community. Those organizations include the Westchester Rockland Guardians Association, the African American Men of Westchester, the Westchester Black Social Workers, Westchester County Department of Community Mental Health, the Westchester Mental Health Peer Group, the Mount Vernon Neighborhood Health Center Network, and the Greenburgh Central School District. So having said that, all of us are part of this coalition, and what we want to do is address health concerns in our community. And mental health concerns are certainly one of the things that we want to address. So our first endeavor, we just recently formed within the last couple of months, and our first endeavor is to address suicide prevention by showing the movie The Ripple Effect.
And that's coming up on September 19th, and it's in Hartsdale at the Woodlands High School and Middle School Auditorium.
Yes, that's correct. 6 p.m. At Woodlands Middle High School.
And it's a film about suicide?
Yeah, it's a film about suicide prevention. The young man who made this documentary, Kevin Hines, attempted suicide. He jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, but fortunately he wasn't successful. He lived, and as a result of that, he has now dedicated his life and his time to try to convince people and help people that are thinking about committing suicide or completing suicide that they should not go that route. So it's an excellent movie, and we think that people will get a lot from it to be able to either help themselves or help other people that they may know that may be contemplating suicide.
And the admission is free?
It's a free admission, absolutely.
And will there be a discussion afterwards?
Yes, there'll be a panel discussion of mental health professionals after the movie, and we'll have a question and answer with the audience, so we certainly invite everyone to come out.
Okay, that again, audience is on September 19th at Woodlands Middle School High School Auditorium in Hartsdale. And a reminder that this is a live segment, so if you've got a concern or a question for our panelists, feel free to call, and our contact information is on the screen. Barbara, you mentioned during our break that for every suicide, there are lots of people who suffer terrible anguish at the loss of a loved one.
Yes.
And the people who are they left alone, or should they reach out to others?
You know, one of the things that we've learned is that everybody responds in their own way. Even within families, people respond differently. But there is enormous power in people connecting with other people. We recently had an evening conversation with family members who have lost someone to suicide, and it was a very powerful connection. We have learned from many people that what has helped them through is by being with, talking with, and sharing thoughts with others who've had this experience. It is a kind of loss that is unlike other loss. And there's just great power for people. And in fact, I'd love to talk about an upcoming event that we have.
Feel free, let's do it now.
Because just like having the Ripple Effect is a great community service, we have Dr. Jennifer Ashton coming to speak about life after suicide. She's recently published a book. This is the next in a series of community conversations that MHA has been organizing. And this is an opportunity for the community to hear from her about her own experience and that of her children following the suicide death of her husband, but she then interviewed people around the country. And what she's sharing is what she has learned from people, which is an enormous array of what has been helpful, because again, for each person, it is a different experience, and what's helpful is different. But this kind of connection is one of the most powerful things that we can do that's preventive, both in terms of healing after suicide, but also preventing suicide.
And this will happen in Chappaqua.
Chappaqua Performing Arts Center.
Thursday the 26th, Chappaqua Performing Arts Center, as you just said. And that's a free admission. Nope, tickets are
$10 admission. $10 admission that evening.
Okay.
But if anyone would like to come and that's a hardship, we will manage to get them in the door.
Okay. We're going to have some contact information for you.
Perfect.
And also for, I think, for Hassan and as Michael for the department, so people can call up and if they missed any part of the information that we've given out tonight, they can get it. I wanted to go back to Hassan and ask you, what other events, ideas does the coalition have?
Well, once again, we just formed this coalition, and our first endeavor is what we've spoken about with the movie Ripple Effect.
Right.
So we want to make sure that that's a success first, and then we will plan going forward.
Okay.
If it is a big success, which we plan for it to be, we may do it in other parts of the county, perhaps in Mount Vernon or New Rochelle or up in the northern part of Westchester County. But again, we want to make sure we're concentrating and focused on this event next week. And then after that, we'll see what direction we want to go to. But we certainly will be dealing with other health-related issues. The epidemic of obesity in our communities and how to address that. Addressing the need for better cancer care, prostate cancer, and things of that nature. So we have a lot of things on our agenda, but we're focused on mental health and suicide prevention right now and make sure that's successful, and then we'll plan going forward.
Well, as we all know, talking about something like suicide is hard for most people.
Yeah.
How do you break through that reticence to talk about it? And the other issues that you're mentioning, obesity, cancer care, they're very personal issues.
Well, I personally think the best way to talk about it is to just talk about it, just approach it. I think one of the problems that people have is not talking about particular issues, especially mental health issues. You know, most folks, in my opinion, don't have a problem, you know, talking about their high blood pressure or talking about diabetes or some other physical ailment. But a lot of people feel the stigma of mental health issues, and they want to keep that to themselves. They want to keep it under the rug. They don't feel comfortable talking about that. So I think that the best way to deal with it is to get it out in the open and realize that there's a lot of help out there from the organizations that these good people represent. You know, these folks can get help if you have a family member or if you're suffering yourself from depression or any of the other mental illnesses that we know about. There is a lot of help, but you have to let people know that you need this help. And then once they know that, they can seek out the different organizations and the different health providers that can help them with that.
So asking is good.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Talking
is good.
I want to go back to something that you mentioned to me before the last break, but we have to take another break. We're going to be right back after these messages from LMC TV. Stay tuned.
LMC TV Media Center is the spot for your next party. Lights, camera, liftoff. The possibilities are endless. Space adventures, video gaming, whatever they imagine, LMC can achieve. Kids of all ages have fun making their own videos in our professional TV studio. LMC TV is the perfect spot for your creative kid to celebrate with friends and make a memory that will last forever in video. Party themes can range depending on their desire. Fun news shows, music videos, stop motion, overall silliness, our cameras can capture it all. Contact us to book a party today.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an engineer at IBM. I work within our Watson Internet of Things division, and I'm also an inventor.
Wow, that's really cool.
The fun part for me of inventing is just learning new technologies, creating ideas, and problem solving.
And 741.
Welcome back to the Roundtable. I'm Michael Witch, and I'm joined with our guests. And tonight we're talking about Westchester County and the month-long suicide awareness and suicide prevention efforts. Barbara, before the last break, you told me that asking is not going to increase the risk to people who might be threatening suicide or talking about ending their life.
Correct.
Can you amplify on that a little bit?
For me, this is one of the most important takeaways because for so long, people were afraid to raise the issue. They were afraid to ask the question. They were concerned that if I asked the question, I might create risk or I might give somebody an idea. And we now know through research that it's just not, it doesn't happen that way. In fact, for many people who are thinking of suicide, it is a relief to have somebody notice that they're struggling and somebody who is brave enough to ask the question. And what I would say is if someone asks the question and the answer is yes, to take a deep breath and recognize that you're not alone. There are so many services in Westchester County, whether it's through the county or through agencies like MHA. There are places to turn for help at all hours of the day or night. We have professional help and we have peer support, which, as we've been talking about, is also so important for people.
Right.
So asking is, yes, it is a good thing to do.
Michael, the Department of Community Mental Health has a hotline, does it?
We have, through St. Vincent's Hospital, a crisis prevention and response team that's available 24 hours, 7 days a week for those in behavioral health crisis. That number is 914-925-5959. It's a 24/7 hotline.
Okay, and if we can get numbers up on the screen that we might have available for people, now's the time to show that.
Yep.
And St. Vincent's, is that the go-to hospital for mental health issues
They
in our
provide our
area?
crisis 24/7 behavioral health. Also, if you call our department at 914-995-5220, we have a whole host of resources from education, as Barbara mentioned, through our agencies for suicide prevention, including Safe Talk, ASSIST training, youth mental health first aid training that's available to the community, to various systems that will provide and make sure we have training in these areas. We also have a website, and there's also for suicide prevention, there's a national hotline, 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-TALK. And there's also a national text line at 741-741 that people can access.
Okay. Hassan, is there a phone number or a website you want to give out for the
Well, we are
new
so
organization?
new. We are so new as an organization. We don't have our website up yet.
Okay.
But I can be reached at 914-830-5933.
Okay, let's do that again. For people who just grabbed their pencil, now they're ready.
Okay.
One more time.
914-830-5933.
Okay. And if you didn't get that, folks, you can watch this program again because it's repeated several times this week, and it'll also be on YouTube for a long, long time after that. Barbara, any phone numbers?
Of course. So MHA has a website also with a lot of information. It's www.mhawestchester.org. And our central scheduler number is 914-345-0700, extension 7350. I'd like to mention that we also have walk-in hours at our clinics throughout the county, Mount Kisco, White Plains, and I'm blocking on it, Yonkers.
Yeah.
And mobile services throughout the county as well.
Okay. Before we leave, Michael, you mentioned that there's a Mamaroneck component to suicide prevention. Can you talk a little bit about that?
We work with all municipalities, including Mamaroneck, to provide training and support, and some of our mental health resources are located in this area. One of our alternatives to suicide groups is being held now in the Mamaroneck community through Human Development Services. So there are resources locally, but anyone can call our number again at 995-5220 and access any type of service in their communities.
So the takeaway is the most important thing to do is not despair, but to ask and to let people know that you're having a difficult time and take a deep breath probably and call one of those numbers. Thank you so much for coming and spending this time with us, and hope you come back again. And stay tuned. There's more of the Local Live coming up. Keep watching.
LMC-TV would like to thank local artist Jamie Lynn at Made, an art studio in Mamaroneck, for creating a beautiful community mural. Place your piece in this mural by contributing to LMC TV, the community connection that brings you local board meetings, varsity sports, and your local news. Please contribute to this community mural by going to our website and clicking on Donate. Each contributor will be listed next to the mural when it's complete. We value your appreciation of what we do. Become a single donor or as a group, go to lmctv.org. The only piece missing is you.
The 14th annual Junior Triathlon is being held on the morning of Saturday, September 21st. The event is for children in grades 2 through 8 and is one way the Mamaroneck Schools Foundation raises funds to help students and teachers in the district. Here are Elizabeth Buck and Carolyn Lee to tell us more.
The Mamaroneck Schools Foundation is a nonprofit organization that awards grants annually to educators in the Mamaroneck School District. It really incentivizes teachers to stay on the cutting edge of what's in their field, and we are very fond of piloting more experimental programs that otherwise would not be funded. Since 1996, we have awarded over 490 teacher-initiated grants, totaling over $4.6 million.
The Junior Triathlon began in 2006, and it was an effort to bring a community event and along with fundraising for the school's foundation. It's a fun event involving kids from grades 2nd all the way through 8th grade. We have as many as 320 to 330 kids participate. Every year the event fills up, and we are at a waiting list today for the event, which will take place on September 21st. I would encourage those who want to find out more about the event to show up and cheer the kids along the run, which goes through Flint Park, or come for the bike, which goes along Hommocks Avenue. The event begins at 7:30 a.m. and begins in the Hommocks pool, where kids will then hop out of the pool, transition in the grassy area, hop onto their bikes, ride up Hommocks Road, and then transition back off their bikes and run through Flint Park to the finish line in the back of Hommocks School. For those who want to do more than just cheer on the participants, we have lots of opportunities to volunteer, and we encourage everyone to come out and volunteer with your kids, or maybe some teenagers that would like to volunteer on their own. It's always fun for the kids to have lots of friendly faces along the route. It's such an inspiring event and so fun to be a part of because kids are able to push themselves swimming, biking, and running to the finish, and there are nothing but big smiles at the end. And in the meantime, we're raising money for the foundation, which then further supports them in their academic pursuits.
This was the first year that we launched a scholarship program to be as inclusive as possible for all children in the community. A junior triathlon is a real opportunity for children to gut it out and to do something that's outside of their comfort zone, which we all know is when kids really earn confidence. They build their own confidence, and it's purely joy. When they cross the finish line, they are so proud of themselves. They've really dug deep and they've persevered and finished the race, which is why we feel this is a wonderful community event, a way to give back to the kids and boost their confidence and do it in a great way through sport.
LMC Cast.
The whole system is fine. All right, cool. I definitely would recommend doing podcasts if you are someone that likes to get something off the chest, or you want to just talk about anything in the world that just might interest you. Podcast here at LMC TV is amazing.
I hope you're listening out there.
Here's what's happening around town. Stop by Memorial Park this Friday at dusk for outdoor movie night. This week's movie is Alfred Hitchcock's North by Northwest. Place Restaurant will be serving pulled pork sandwiches and ice cream. Also, don't forget about Larchmont Day. The 5th annual Village Day is this Saturday, the 14th, from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. and will include live music, games, rides, and more. Come down to Constitution Park to join in on the fun and say hello to the LMC TV crew. If you're looking to keep the fun going on Saturday through Sunday, the 16th annual Family Campout at Harbor Island Park is happening. There will be a showing of Incredibles 2 beginning at dusk, which is the last screening of Movies on the Sand, by the way, along with games and snacks. Registration is required and check-in begins at 5 p.m. on the 14th. In loving memory of Giampero Mole, the Mamaroneck Fire Department is holding a blood drive. Donors are welcome to either walk in or make an appointment on Thursday the 19th from 3 to 9 p.m. at the Fire Department on Palmer Avenue.
I went through years of guilt, thinking that I must have done something to deserve that. I knew if I told someone, they would say it's my fault.
I thought I was going to die without ever having spoken about the abuse that happened to me.
When you've been sexually abused as a child, it can take years or even decades to process what happened.
That's why we changed the law and passed the Child Victims Act.
The Child Victims Act means that survivors have more time to bring our abusers
and the institutions that may have protected them to justice in the courts.
I was in my 40s before I could even tell someone what happened, let alone think about going to the police or to a lawyer. When I finally did, it was too late because of New York's strict statute of limitations.
Survivors can now file a criminal claim up to age 28 years old.
And up to age 55 years old for a civil claim.
And starting on August 14th,
for only 1 year,
survivors who were previously told that we were too old or that it was too late to file a civil lawsuit
will now be able to do exactly that.
No matter how long ago the abuse happened.
Anyone can do it. Anyone.
Anyone.
Every survivor has the right to pursue justice in the courts
if that's what's right for you.
Find out more about the Child Victims Act by going to safehorizon.org.
Even if it's just to talk to someone, because that's what I did.
But remember, whatever you decide to do,
it's up to you.
And you're not alone.
Because now,
it's our choice.
It's our choice. It's our choice.
The final episode of the 4-part series on the Long Island Sound premiered yesterday. Again, this was a collaboration that brought the Marine Education Center at Harbor Island Park, Mamaroneck, and LMC TV together to teach you about the diversity of the local aquatic life. Be sure to watch the full series, produced by our assistant director, Dina Schumacher, by visiting lmctv.org. Also, if you didn't get the chance to attend the inaugural Mamaroneck Art Stroll, stay tuned after the Local Live tonight to check out what you have missed.
You got me running, going out of my mind. You got me thinking that I'm wasting my time. Bring me down. No, 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 no. Ooh. I tell you what's wrong before I get up the floor. Don't bring me down. You
This week in sports, the Baranek boys soccer team trailed RC Ketchum by a goal coming into the second half. The Tigers came out roaring, scoring 3 goals in the first 5 minutes of the half to turn the tide in the LMC Varsity Sports Plays of the Week.
Didn't see it, he didn't turn around. And this is a shot and a goal for the Tigers. An early second half goal to tie things up for the Tigers. And that is number 21, Matt Geraldo. Back up to Keckman. He races forward, kicks it to the middle. This one off the side of the goal. Back to the middle, and a header is in. The pass from Keckman, the score from Radovich, as the Tigers take a 2-1 lead here in this second half. With strong start to the second half here for the Tigers. The intensity much higher, and a great shot there as they expand their lead to 3-1. And that is number 3, J.M. Deco on the shot. Great shot there from Deco.
We must be missing something here. What if this is about Abigail Daniels? What if, wait a minute, Daniels, Daniela? I think that Daniela is Abigail.
That's impossible. Abigail was 12 years old 5 years ago. I mean, you knew her.
Unless she's an elder. Let's go finish this.
Do you have a news tip? Seen anything interesting around town? Is there breaking news in your community? Send your videos, comments, pictures, and tips to the Local Live, your news source of Larchmont and Mamaroneck.
Remember, if you missed Thursday's live broadcast, you can catch replays of the Local Live twice a day on this channel and find story clips on our YouTube channel. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook to stay up to date on things you may have missed. Thank you for watching the Local Live. I'm Sibilla Chipaziwa. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Have a good night.
If you are interested in sponsoring this or other programs on LMC TV, contact us for more information.